Waiting for Seconds is a podcast that talks about subjects of self-harm, suicide, eating disorders, and other personal topics. If you don't feel comfortable listening to this podcast alone, listen to it with someone important to you. May that be a teacher, a parent figure, or someone else you feel comfortable being with.
This is Waiting for Seconds, the interview podcast where we meet people and ask them who they are and why they are.
And I thought I was doing the intro, but I guess I'm Malcolm Outkelt, and I'm here with Shannon Miller. And today we'll be talking with Joey. Hey, Joey. Hi, go ahead and introduce yourself, I guess.
Hi, I'm Joey. I'm a Jewish Canadian from Vancouver. I'm planning to go to law school in the next couple years.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I met Joey a couple of years back now through a mutual friend, somebody I was going to high school with. And how did you meet him again?
I went to university with them.
Ah.
Wait, in Colorado?
Yes, so I went to university at University of Denver in Colorado.
Oh.
And I joined a Discord server, and Joey was, I think, already in it.
I think so. Yes, because it was the new one. That's correct.
Because it was the new one. Yeah. And we both played Halo.
It's true.
It's true.
Those days, I miss them.
Uh-huh.
They're not gone. We can still play Halo.
They don't have to be over.
I work too much now. And I don't have time for Halo most of the time.
Fair enough.
But do you have any kitties? You have any little kitty cats?
I have no pets, unfortunately.
Damn it.
Tragic.
I wish I had a dog. One day.
One day.
One day.
One day. I love dogs.
I love dogs too. Well, we brought you on because we wanted to ask you a couple of questions, as I'm sure you expect.
Yeah, that's unsurprising. I've been informed.
You've been informed. Good. Well, I wanted to actually start by talking about your law. I know you just recently passed. What was the test again?
The LSAT, which is the general entrance exam to enter law schools in Canada and the US.
Hell yeah.
Gotcha.
You just recently passed the LSAT. How was that? Was it extremely hard? Is basically the question.
I think most people find it extremely hard. I didn't find it too difficult. Personally, yeah. I took a class that had it's very much a logical reasoning test. And in my last year at university, I took a class about logical reasoning and argumentation, which is what the LSAT is about, which helped a lot. And I've also always been a good standardized tester, so
yeah.
I didn't find it that challenging, but I know that a lot of people do.
Yeah. So you took a logical reasoning class. I'd love to, I've heard about classes like that, but I'd love to ask you a little bit more about what the actual content of that was.
So it's kind of difficult to describe without my notes from the class in front of me. Yeah. But basically, the class was called Thinking. And it's just about how to look at arguments and evaluate them and consider their merits and flaws, how to criticize them, things like that. That's sort of the main content of the class. We also, I think once a week, maybe once every class, had a logical, like some sort of logic puzzle.
Okay.
To do stuff like that. Mostly writing and coming up with answers to logic puzzles, things like that.
So it's not really like you guys didn't really do debates, but it's more like reason the explanation here.
Yeah, sort of reasoning and creativity.
Interesting. That seems like a very interesting class.
Yeah, it was.
Is that so? You were. I'm lost. Were you doing like a psychology major beforehand?
No, I took an international studies major. It was a general purpose course. It was a course that filled a requirement that every student has to take in their last 2 years.
Okay, but then doing that led you into law.
Well, I was planning on going into law anyways.
Okay.
This class
Okay.
isn't what made me decide to go into law. I was already planning on going into law for a while, and that was just one of the more interesting classes I took.
Was there something in particular that pushed you towards law?
I mean, yes. To be honest with you, I really want to help people and to try to make the world better. And I think that law is a good avenue towards that, because I don't really plan on practicing law when I get out of law school. Obviously, I'll have to for a little bit, because I don't think you have to do it in the US, but in Canada, you have to article at a law firm before you become a full-fledged lawyer.
Oh, okay.
But I don't. Yeah, so you have to go to a law firm and basically work there for, I think it's a year or two before you can take the bar, which is the exam to actually become a lawyer that can practice.
Okay.
I've just never heard of the term article before, so that was unless it was like news article. So this is new lingo to me.
Yeah. So after that, I plan on either going to work for a company or whatever, and maybe one day get into government. I don't know. We'll see.
Law does feel like a really good direct way to be able to impact people's lives and help those who are wrongfully convicted or, in a bad situation that they can't really get out of without your help.
Yeah. I that's sort of what I figured.
Yeah.
Especially in a place and in a system where law is decided by precedent.
That's true. So, going into that a little bit more, where would you like to be in 5 years? Would you like to be into law, into government, or would you just like to be just a lawyer?
I think 5 years from today, because I'm not going to law school, I'll probably be articling by then, because law school is about 3 years.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's probably where I'll be in 5 years. Probably articling at a law firm.
Be done with law school and articling near the end of your employment there before you can go on to actually be a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Where are you planning on going to law school? Is that anywhere interesting in particular, or is it just some Canadian school I've never heard of?
If I can get in, I don't think I can, but we'll see. I'd love to go to University of Toronto.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's going to happen, because it's a top law school in the world, I learned recently, not just in Canada.
Damn.
Damn.
So probably a Canadian university that you've never heard of, like Toronto Metropolitan University or something like that.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with University of Toronto then. I mean, clearly you got the skill set. You destroyed the LSAT.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Unfortunately, I wasn't the best student in first and second year university, and especially during COVID and quarantine, because I was here at home in Canada, not even in Denver.
Oh, God, yeah.
But I was a really good student in fourth year, so
COVID just
hopefully that makes up for it.
Have you ever actually talked about how COVID has affected people? So I'd love to know, what was it like for you at going to a university down in Colorado, but having to stay up in Canada? How did the rest of COVID basically affect you?
I think that it was honestly for the best that I came back home. Well, it did make it more difficult to sit myself down and get work done for classes. I would have basically been alone in an apartment for a year and a half. And
that's very depressing.
Yeah, so it was nice to be at home because I got to be with my family, and my whole immediate family was here, which is not something that we ever really thought we'd have again, because my brother was supposed to stay in the US when he finished his grad school. But he came back because of COVID and has now started to build his life here. So it was... How did COVID impact me? It was almost like it didn't happen in hindsight, but I very much remember just sort of being unmotivated and uninterested in things. And that sort of seemed to be the general vibe of all the rest of the students at school. Everyone was very unmotivated to do things. It did make running the clubs very hard that I was in charge of.
What clubs did you run?
During COVID, I was the
Uh-huh.
vice president of Fandoms Club, of DU Fandoms Club and Anime Club.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
However, the president of both of those clubs, who was also one person, was one of the people who had very little motivation to do anything during COVID, and I did most of the actual running of both of those clubs during that time. After that, in fourth year, I became the president of both of those clubs and the treasurer of the Dungeons and Dragons Club.
I didn't know they had a D&D club.
I want a D&D club.
Fun fact, it's the biggest club on campus. Biggest regularly meeting club on campus.
That's very cool. It sometimes surprises me how many people have gotten into D&D, but like a fun escape mechanism, and it's so many people are nerds these days, man.
It's great. It's great being a nerd. I love every second of it.
It's great being a nerd.
It's great being a nerd.
And it's even better now that it's socially acceptable.
I need it on a t-shirt.
It's great being a nerd.
It's great being a nerd.
Yep.
Not merch. We don't do merch.
We don't do merch.
Not merch? No, you're not going to make an It's Great Being a Nerd shirt?
Maybe sometime down the line, but not right now.
Yeah, only if it catches on.
Only if we get cool.
I think you're pretty cool.
Aw, I think you're pretty cool, Joey.
Thanks.
Well, I would ask, I assume, because you're president of or treasurer of the D&D club, you play a lot of D&D.
Not right now, but generally yes.
Mm.
Technically, I'm not playing any D&D right now, but I am in 2 non-D&D campaigns.
You're in Vampire, right? And then what else?
And I'm playing Troika in my Sunday group, which normally plays D&D, but yeah, it's a very weird system. It's fun.
What's the basic premise?
I've played 1 session of Troika ever. The basic premise of Troika, from what I can gather, is Troika is called the Endless City of Troika, and it's just chaotic.
Okay.
I'm playing as you, so you roll for your class, which is also your background, and your race, and kind of your race, not necessarily.
Interesting.
Race, but there are some classes that are races. I am a Temple Knight of Talak the Swordbringer, and I start with 6 swords out of your 12 inventory slots. Some of which take up 2 if they're a great sword.
So you have a lot of swords.
And with the other starting equipment, my inventory is actually full. To start. And for every 2 swords I have, I get an extra armor, which means that I can have more armor than most other people.
Huh.
And that's just
so if you fill your inventory with swords.
If I'm never not overtly armed, if I ever don't obviously have a sword on me, I lose my blessing. And I have to make a sword and give it to someone who doesn't have one. and I think I'm playing the most tame of all the subclasses. Of all the classes of our party
Yeah. That's the most tame.
We have one person who's
like a very fun system.
We have one person whose class is like just they consume things and they are capable of eating pretty much anything.
So they're Kirby.
Kind of.
Well, Kirby can consume damn near everything, but
we have someone who's a monkey farmer.
What?
He has 6 monkeys that follow him around.
Does he fight with them?
He can. But their final purpose is obviously for slaughter to eat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a monkey farmer.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up as we speak, and I want to play it.
It's a
this
crazy.
seems like a very fun system.
It is. It's very fun. It's very fun as long as you're prepared to lean into the chaotic of it. How chaotic it is.
The insanity of it.
Yeah.
Well, is D&D, or I guess TTRPGs more generally, a major part of your life then?
Right now, yes. I enjoy them a lot. I would say so. Mm-hmm. I really do like playing them because it's sort of an outlet for storytelling and for just spending time with friends, and creativity, and I enjoy all of those things.
A good excuse to be creative with a bunch of friends.
Exactly. I love the collective storytelling of D&D. Sometimes it makes it harder to tell certain stories which is definitely something I've noticed as a GM, just the medium of speaking about things and not being an artist who can draw things. Definitely can limit what kinds of stories you can tell, but it's still very fun.
Have you ever really like? I mean, I know that I've made friends through D&D. Have there ever been any major like life events or serious notable parts of your life that are focused around D&D or TTRPGs in general?
I wouldn't say life events, but I would say that I really like storytelling and writing, and that's something that I really think I developed from D&D. I always thought that stories were really cool and that writing was cool, but I was never very good at it, and I never really like refined it very much or did it on my own until I started playing D&D. And like I would say most people who play the game, I started pretty not great at it. But as time goes on, you get better at writing and role playing it and being in the minds of characters, which is huge. And it really helps you become a better writer. And I've noticed that a lot of people who play TTRPGs learn how to write through that.
Have you ever? I mean, I think that's probably true of me, but I don't really know if that's actually come up in my life. Like, I don't do a lot of creative writing. But I have written a lot of like papers and essays and stuff like that for school. Have you ever noticed if that has come up in your schoolwork?
I find it does help me with being concise in my schoolwork to an extent.
Yeah.
I learn how to get points across a lot faster, especially if I'm a GM, like running a campaign for someone. I need to get across what's going on and what I'm trying to convey in a simple and easy to understand manner. And although it's not always the case, it's better now in universities where they will accept an essay that is perhaps shorter but far clearer and far better written.
Yeah.
Because you can fluff out your essay to be 40 million words, but if your essay is 2 pages and gets across all the same things in a much easier to understand way, it's just a better essay.
Just a downright better essay.
Yeah. Although, all in all, I would say it hasn't had too much of an impact on my schoolwork writing. I feel like it's very different. I've refined my storytelling through D&D, and writing for school is kind of a different kind of writing.
There's not a lot of that writing is very formal and very specific, where D&D storytelling, that's improv and team collaboration, where those don't really come up in formal writing.
It has helped me with thinking on my feet for like timed essays and things, but other than that, I would say that it hasn't had a huge impact.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned that your brother came back to, I don't remember what city you're in. Vancouver. Your brother just came back to Vancouver, and I'd love to ask you a little bit about your family. I mean, obviously, you didn't really expect him to be returning anytime soon, but he did. Did that have any significant impact on either your future plans or your time during COVID, mental health, maybe?
Definitely. It was definitely a positive influence on my mental health during COVID. Having my brother here in the house with me, rather than just being with my parents, because it's just a different kind of dynamic that you have with your parents. I'm very lucky that I love my parents. My parents are very good to me. I have a very good relationship with everyone in my immediate family. But yeah, I was very glad my brother came home. It definitely had a positive impact on my mental health. I wouldn't say that it changed any of my future plans, really. It definitely changed his. But
because he's staying there and setting
he's staying
home base.
Well, during COVID, he actually met his girlfriend. His current girlfriend, and they've been dating for a couple of years now. So
that's nice.
Yeah, they are. So he's sort of building his life here now instead of building it down in North Carolina where he was at school.
Is he still studying at the same school?
No, so he actually came back after finishing school.
Oh, okay.
So he happened to finish school in March of 2020.
Gotcha.
He finished his graduate program, and then he came back. Or he came back like
nice.
3 weeks before.
Right, but it's still finished. He still finished finals or
He was nearly done when he came home.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your relationships with your family or immediate family, did you have a relatively good childhood?
I would say so. My parents are excellent role models for my brother and I. They're great parents. I love them both very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that I had a very good childhood.
Simple and sweet. I mean,
which I understand is lucky. Not as many people have as good of a relationship with their family as I do. Especially, I met a lot of people, especially at school, at university, that have very different family situations from me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, it's good that you acknowledge that, because I know a lot of people just think that their family is how every family is, and not all. It doesn't happen often.
Mm-hmm.
That
yeah,
parents are good.
I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because I would imagine, I don't know, I don't have any firsthand experience. Raising a kid is hard.
Yeah, from my understanding, yeah.
Like, everything that you do has an impact on that kid, especially early on. And you have to do everything you can to make sure that it's a positive impact and not a negative one. Which is hard because it means that you kind of have to try and be at your best all the time.
Everything you do always affects them.
Mm-hmm.
But there is kind of a balance of like, you do need to be positive all the time, but I also feel like the kid needs to also see you at your worst, not like towards them, but like just in your day to day, just to understand, if you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah. You want to try and there's a distinction between necessarily being at your best all the time and being a positive influence on them all the time.
Right.
Like, even at your worst, you want to be like handling situations in a proper way, such that like you can maybe lose your cool or like just sort of be struggling with something and not be doing a good job. But there's but like to show them that, oh, maybe you're asking for help or talking it out with someone, a problem that you had. Like, it's important to show them both of those things and how to do it properly.
And avoiding getting violent and those kinds of binge drinking or anything like that often will have very negative repercussions on a child.
Yeah, exactly. You want to try and be a good role model for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want to act like everything's perfect all the time, because then they start to develop the idea that everything has to
will always be perfect.
Right.
Yeah. And if their life isn't perfect, they're failing, and and that has even more of a severe psychological effect on a child than just having problems.
It seems so simple. It seems so simple on paper, like to raise a kid, but then when you actually do it, it just seems like a pain in the ass, because not even the kid's going to be the same as on paper.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people forget that there's the physical side of raising a kid well, making sure they're well fed and taken care of, and then how closely linked that is to the mental side as well. Like, that they're not separate. They're the same. They're one and the same.
Yeah. Do you plan on ever having kids?
I would like to. One day.
One day?
Certainly not anytime too soon, considering I still have to go to school more before I start my actual career, let alone buy a house in Vancouver.
God.
Yeah, I assume those prices ain't good.
Sounds expensive.
One of the most highest costs of living in the world.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I would like to live here when I grow up. Obviously, who knows where life will take me. Maybe I'll stay in Toronto. Maybe I'll meet someone there, and that's where I'll decide to raise my family. But
Toronto's
I like Vancouver quite a lot.
Toronto's on the other side from where you are, right?
Yeah, it is. It's out east. I have a lot of family out there, though.
Oh, that's good. I know if I was to move to eastern side of the United States, it would be hard. to have the balance of family and still have life.
Fair enough.
But,
I mean, I've sort of done it before, like moved away and come back, and still being like when I went to school, I was gone for not actually 4 years because of COVID, but for like 2.5 years, give or take. Right? So I sort of learned how to balance keeping in touch with my family with having friends and having my own separate life.
Mm-hmm.
Was it ever stressful to be separate though?
From my family, I didn't find it to be that stressful. I've been going to summer camp since I was 6 or 7. I think 7.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I started with only like 5 days, and it used to be much more stressful for me when I was 7 years old, being away from my parents for the first time. But
right.
by the time that I went to university, I was... Oh, sorry. Give me one moment.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
It's all good.
Should I just pick up where I left off? What was I saying? Crap.
Talking about the stressful life of being away from family, but not actually the family part of it.
I think
summer camp.
what you were saying by the
summer
time
camp.
you've gotten to university.
By the time I got to university, I was going away for like 2 months at a time, like 6 to 8 weeks at a time during the summer. So I was sort of used to being away from my family.
Well, you do have a lot of your future plans. Truly, sound very stressful. Like raising a kid, law school on its own, trying to become a lawyer,
and then being a lawyer,
Yeah. How do you currently, and how do you plan to manage that stress?
So I've learned how to manage stress very well, and I learned it in my last year of university when I was the president of 2 clubs, the treasurer of a 3rd, and also taking a full course load.
And also in university.
Well, yeah, that's the first full course load, right?
Yeah.
At DU, which is a quarter system school, so we take 4 classes. We basically take 3 semesters in a year instead of the regular 2. So an extra set of classes, so it's even less time to do everything.
That's lovely.
And honestly, I used to not handle it very well. I used to sort of just break down under it and not do my work. But I sort of learned just how I get work done and when I'm most productive and how to make sure I'm productive when I need to be. And that helps me. I find that I'm just not really as stressed about things anymore. When I do get stressed about stuff, I'm just good at sort of not thinking about it, which is not probably the best strategy in the world, but it works because I don't think about it until I just think about it long enough to pick a time to get it done, which is usually I'll wake up early to get it done just because I'm most productive early in the morning. And then I just don't think about it until I'm actually doing it.
That's interesting. I don't think we've ever heard that answer of effectively just, how do I manage stress? I just avoid thinking about it until I can do it and get rid of the stressor.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know, it works for me, I find. I just try to, when something's really stressing me out, I used to put it off. Now I just get it done when it's distracting me enough that I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, if it works for you, that's the important part.
Yeah.
And it's something that I sort of had to train myself to do because it's something that I needed to get good marks in my 4th year because I didn't have good marks before that and I wanted to get into law school. And I felt like and because I volunteered to be in all these positions and clubs, I felt an obligation to get all that done. And in order to get all that done, I had to learn how to manage my time and deal with the stress of it.
What did that process look like for you of learning how to deal with those things before they actually became problems, or deal with them once they were problems?
There's one more thing about dealing with stress that, because obviously even then you can't avoid stress. It doesn't. You can't just be like, oh, I just don't ever think about it, because that's not how brains really work. Well, that's not how my brain really works, at least. And I think that it's important to have friends that you're comfortable enough talking to, rather, online or in person, either or, that you can just get into a call with, or just chill in a room with, and just talk to about whatever's stressing you out. And whether they're going to listen or give you advice or just whatever. It's just that's very helpful. Just having someone to talk through things with helps
someone
a lot.
who you can vent to and who can listen.
Sorry, I forgot the second question you asked now.
What did the process look like for you to be able to learn how to manage that stress like that? Was that easy for you, or was that a truly crunch, I need to get this work done or else I just ain't going to law school?
It wasn't that hard. It wasn't as hard as I feel like it should have been, at least looking back on it in hindsight. It was I was more tired than I was before because, like I said, I worked best early in the morning. Especially I took one semester of a 5th year. And especially then I woke up at 6:30 every weekday morning. Monday through Thursday, every day for the entire quarter, the entire semester, just to get my work done, because that's when I would be productive and get my work done. And I just sort of got into the groove of waking up at 6:30, going to bed at 10 p.m. And I would wake up at 6:30, get to the dining hall at 7 when it opens, and work until my 10 a.m. class for 3 hours. And I would get so much done.
I imagine after that class, you could hang out with your friends, do whatever.
Well, exactly, and then
prep
I've got my work done. So in the afternoon, I could play video games or hang out with friends or whatever. I was sort of free to do whatever I needed, or do my club stuff. In after the class.
Once you got all your shit done in the morning, you could go have a good time
the rest
in
of
the
my
afternoon.
Shit. Yeah. Go
nice.
Take care of myself. And that worked really well for me. How did I sort of start doing that? Well, I learned in high school or early university, I don't remember which, that because I think it's because I have ADHD and so I'm on meds, that working late into the night, like most college students do, doesn't work for me. I get tired and I just cannot focus or do it. And even if I can manage to do work, it takes way longer and it's way worse. So I sort of realized better to get, even if it's not enough, to get some amount of sleep, wake up, and do my work, than like in the morning when I'm even if I'm just a little fresher from, I think let's say it's a terrible amount of sleep, like 3 hours of sleep. That's still 3 more hours of sleep. You're 3 hours less tired, I find, in the morning. Which isn't a lot, admittedly, but it's something, and I can put out slightly better work than I would have, and it can be slightly faster. So I sort of just started waking up early to do that. Even if I was going to bed later, I would just be like, whatever, I'm not getting my work done tonight. I'll go to bed and I'll just wake up like 2 hours before my class to get it done then. And that slowly evolved into my sort of schedule where I would just wake up at 6:30 every day and get my work done and then go to class. And
so now, do you naturally wake up at 6:30, or did you have like an alarm set?
I graduated 5 months ago, so no. I will say, for being out of school for 5 months, my schedule has been pretty good. I wake up at 8:30 or 9:30 every morning.
Yeah. Go to bed at like midnight.
Midnight, 1:30 at the latest. I try to get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah. So
my sleep schedule is still pretty good. I try to maintain it there. I think I need to bring it back earlier again soon because I'm trying to get a job now. But
right.
Are you looking for a job that's in law, or are you just going for whatever they can give you?
Right now I am looking for a job in law just because it looks better on a law school application.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm just looking for a job in law.
What does that look like specifically? Because you can't be an article right now.
Yeah, and even the interns that most law firms hire are law students that are in between, and during the summer, not at law school, just because they're the people that know something and can be trusted to do anything of any actual importance in the law firm. Because you can't give an undergraduate student important jobs, because if they mess it up, you're liable.
Yeah.
So one of the places that I've applied to is I'm applying for a tech position, like an IT sort of position.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of students will be like records clerks, so just people who do filing stuff, things like that,
and can pull out the right shit whenever they need to.
Yeah, just busy work, sort of. Well, IT isn't busy work, but those are usually the kinds of jobs that people do.
Yeah, IT can be busy work.
Fair enough.
Sadly enough, sometimes it absolutely can be busy work.
But it's less busy work than like filing. You know what I mean?
It is significantly
because you're
less
actively
busy work
helping
than
people with things.
Yeah, I mean, I worked IT or somewhere in between IT for a couple of years, and there was definitely enough of, all right, now get 300 laptops set up so this new group can be ready to come in. And it wasn't busy work. It had shit coming along, but it was exhausting.
Fair enough. Yeah. I can only, well, I guess hopefully I won't have to.
Hopefully, you'll only have to imagine.
Oh no, hopefully I won't, because hopefully I'll get this job.
Yeah, but you don't want to. Don't.
No,
please.
I don't think that this is that big of a law firm. I won't be setting up like 300 laptops at a time or anything.
If you can be setting up like 10, that'll be great. That's more
I don't even know if I'll be doing that. Like, I think I'll be helping people, like helping set up AV audiovisual stuff, things like that. That's what I suspect I'll be doing more, just for conferences and meetings.
That makes sense.
That'd be awesome. I mean,
yeah.
And then you can just start to learn the feeling of being in a law firm.
Yeah. And while doing something that is within my skill set right now, because though I've never officially been employed as someone who's in charge of helping people with technical difficulties and setting up audiovisual stuff, I have done it in many times in the past.
You have helped parents or online friends.
When I worked at a summer camp for many years, and I was just sort of the go-to person to set up the projector or help people with tech problems or whatever, just because I'm knowledgeable enough about it that I can actually do it.
You're young and you work on computers because you like computers.
Well, even like the people, because at my summer camp, the people around me are my age or younger. Right? It's just I think it's cool stuff. So I like computers and I work on computers, like you said.
Well, I'm going to transition a little bit more. I kind of learned that you are Jewish.
Yes, I am Jewish.
Have you been Jewish your entire life? Do you practice still?
So yeah, my family is Jewish. Both my parents are. I still live in my parents' house right now. I still practice, and I intend to practice for the rest of my life. Personally, it's an important part of my identity, my Judaism. I'm not super religious. I'm a more conservative Jew, although I do go to a modern Orthodox synagogue, so maybe leaning a little more religious. But yeah, it's very important. I still practice. Every Friday we have our family over and we do Shabbat dinner. We celebrate all the holidays. I fast on Yom Kippur.
Do you guys celebrate Hanukkah?
Yeah, we celebrate Hanukkah. It's technically one of the less important holidays because it's not in the actual Jewish Bible. It happened after the story of Hanukkah. So it doesn't have a ton of it actually doesn't have a ton of religious significance. A lot of people I've found think that Hanukkah is the most important Jewish holiday because it happens to coincide with Christmas.
It's Passover is the most important one, yeah.
That's also not true. Actually, the most important Jewish holiday is Yom Kippur.
I feel like I knew that, but now I'm just looking dumb.
The holidays that usually happen around September to November, not including Hanukkah, which sometimes is in November, are called the high holidays, and those are the most important holidays of the year. Passover is also very important, but generally those are the most important. As far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure.
Do you ever have to kind of prepare for those holidays? Like, is there any practice that you have to do before the holiday actually begins?
Well, for some of them, yes. Some of them, no. Yom Kippur, try to eat and drink a decent amount during the day before, not too much, so that your body doesn't like get used to having tons of water and stuff. Just because Yom Kippur you have to fast for the day.
Right.
So no water, no food for from sundown to sundown. So you sort of just make sure that you're not like super thirsty or hungry when you start, because that's asking for having a bad fast. That's probably has some of the a little less preparation. And then there's also things like Sukkot, where you build sort of a little, it's called a sukkah, but a sort of structure in your like backyard. Or you go to someone else's, and we don't do this, but more religious people will sleep in it and eat all their meals in it. We just eat our meals in it.
Okay.
Now,
That's
are you
interesting. Go ahead, Jen.
are you more practicing now than when you were as a kid? Meaning, like, so basically, I'm Christian, but I didn't really feel closer to God until like a little bit after high school, and I kind of claimed it as my own. But before, it was mostly like me following my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Do you more practice for yourself now, or is it more for your parents?
I definitely practice for myself. Like at school, when I wasn't with my parents at all, I would still fast on Yom Kippur. I would still do all these things. It was a little harder because I didn't have a proper like house to build a sukkah. But I would like go to the nearest. There's a rabbi at the university. I would go there and eat under his sukkah. And I would say that definitely now I practice for myself. I've always, to an extent, practiced for myself. When I was little, I didn't really understand what that meant fully.
Right.
To be practicing for yourself as opposed to for your parents. As long as I can really remember understanding what that means, being Jewish has always been an important part of my identity, and with it, practicing has been an important part of that.
That's cool. I like that.
Has that ever been a challenge for you? Either in it takes a lot of time away from school, or you get hate or shit on for whatever reason for it?
I have experienced some anti-Semitism, not a ton, throughout my life, which is lucky. There's definitely been in high school. I went to a high school that is non-denominational, but it was a prep school, and it also was once upon a time a Catholic school. And honestly, the once upon a time a Catholic school thing is whatever. That wasn't really part of it, but there were definitely some people who had some anti-Semitic, not really views, but like there was definitely some groups of people in my grade who "don't be a Jew" was a insult thrown around. Things like that.
Yeah.
I haven't been like ever specifically bullied for being Jewish though. Like one time I was with one of those groups of people, and one of them said it to another person, and I wasn't involved in like that those two people saying it at all. And a third person who was with us like told the person not to say that because I was in the room. That was confusing, but so I've never been targeted for it really, but yeah.
You've definitely seen it though, right?
I've definitely seen it. There's once on DU campus, I remember there was people put up a bunch of like Nazi and anti-Semitic stuff on like there's a sort of modern art installation on campus, and people like put up stuff onto it. And I distinctly remember the university not saying anything about it, and just taking it off that same night and not telling anyone. And I only found out because my friend had seen it when it was still up.
They just took it down quietly?
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, it was Halloween, so it probably wasn't students. It was probably someone else who came to the campus on Halloween while they were drunk and being stupid and did it. But
yeah,
I definitely remember not feeling super safe walking around alone at night on campus for a couple months after that.
Yeah, I guess I understand from some extent, from their point of view, why they might not say something, because they don't want to scare the students like that, but a failure to do something is just as bad.
I will say, more recently, there has been another incident, anti-Semitic incident, where there were some students, it was just after I graduated, there were some students who took pig's blood and like stuff like that, and put it on like pork and stuff, and put it on. I don't remember if it was pig's blood. I think it was just pork, and like put it on Jewish students' dorm doors.
Oh shit!
That's kind of
and
fucked.
like, yeah, right. And this university took that very seriously.
Oh, good.
And like directly addressed in a newsletter, and like worked with the Jewish organizations that are on campus, and very much did I would say quite a good job at addressing that and dealing with it. I think that the reason that they didn't address and deal with it on Halloween, obviously I don't have the full story because they weren't public about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it probably on Halloween wasn't wasn't people that were part of the DU community doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of a one-off thing. That, for the record, this Halloween thing happened 2 years before this other incident. So it was they were very clearly separate incidences.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they probably didn't address it because they had no way of knowing for sure that it was anyone on campus. And based on the fact that nothing happened within the next 2 years, it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Is Halloween actually something you guys, I mean, not celebrate, but still like do something with? Not.
Yeah. I mean, Halloween isn't really a religious holiday for anyone
Right.
at this point.
Halloween is a capitalism holiday.
I just know that we started to not celebrate it because was it my mom? So something happened, at least in our family, and we just like after 9 years old or something, we just kind of stopped.
Like, it's fun to dress up. It's an excuse to basically make a cosplay and go as a character and like go out as a character, and it's an excuse to go out and hang out with friends and have some fun, right? Like, yeah, I celebrate Halloween, but it doesn't have any like significance to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like celebrating Sukkot or Passover or Yom Kippur has significance to me. Like if I missed Halloween one year, I'd be like, whatever.
Right.
I don't particularly care about it.
It's an excuse to go have some fun more than
exactly.
Hang out with your buddies, dress up as something fun and crazy, and eat shit tons of candy.
Yeah, it would be the same as like if I missed out getting chocolate the day after Valentine's Day when it's all on sale. It's like, I missed out on some cheap chocolate that would have been fun, but like, it doesn't.
Well.
It's right. It's
not a life
important.
changer.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask if there's anything else that seems. So I mean, obviously, anti-Semitism like is a challenge, at least in your life. Is there anything else that's majorly something you've struggled with more than you think most other people have?
I would say so. In particular, related to Judaism, in fact. Because even the anti-Semitism has like its flip side, where when I reach out to Jewish people that are in the Jewish community that I know to try and get a job, which is what I'm doing right now, I'm much more likely to get a job because I'm in the Jewish community and they know me. Right? So there's sort of there's two sides to being part of the Jewish community. But I also find that I've had trouble with dating to an extent because of it. Because one thing that's important to me is being Jewish. I'm being Jewish my whole life and raising my kids Jewish. And it's not necessarily like I can't find someone who I'd be interested in being in a relationship with and vice versa. But it's more, it's a lot. I narrow my options a lot when I'm only looking at people who are Jewish, which is something that's very important to me, that I marry someone who's Jewish and that my kids are Jewish.
Yeah.
But also like that I'd be interested in and that has similar interests as I do and things like that. So I've had difficulty finding a partner who is Jewish that I want to date. And on top of that, I'm pretty shy about asking people out and things like that. So I'm not great at doing it. So on top of like limiting my options, I'm also shy about asking people out, and it makes it a lot harder. And even I recently got out of a relationship with someone who wasn't Jewish, and it was really tough being in a relationship with someone who wasn't Jewish, even though they were trying to convert. Before we got into a relationship, they were heavily considering converting. It was just they didn't have the same shared experiences, and my parents were sort of iffy about it because they weren't Jewish yet, and my parents wanted them to convert Orthodox so that everyone would recognize my kids as Jewish, and I care very much about what my parents think of me and of my partner.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that that's been difficult. That's something that I've found to be difficult. And I know a lot of people don't care as much about marrying Jewish these days. I personally think that it's very important to me.
Do you mind if I ask why that is something? Is it just the shared experience and the growing up in that household is something important to you and something you want to impart into your kids?
Yeah, it's very much. It has a lot to do with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I want whoever I'm with to agree with me about the way that I want to raise my kids, and I want to raise my kids in such a way that they can go to the same Jewish summer camp I've been going to since I was in grade 2, and can go to the same schools and have these same shared experiences. And because honestly, I'm very lucky and I've been very happy with my life. On whole, I'm very happy. I have a loving family. I've had tons of opportunities and experiences, and I do think that part of that is because I've been part of the Jewish community and had certain opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I wasn't Jewish. Like, I've heard what Christian summer camp is like, and I've heard that it sounds a lot less fun. Because honestly, sorry.
There's some. I mean, I went to a Christian summer camp, but I've heard of a lot of other summer camps that are not as great, and it's more forced down your throat than just having a good time at a summer camp.
Yeah, like at my summer camp, it's on a lake. It's up in the interior in a very nice area, and it's just like priority number 1 is that the kids have a great summer and have a ton of fun. Priority number 2 is teaching them about Judaism and stuff, right? In that order. So, and even like there's a lot of sort of ham-fisted, I'm going to say in quotation marks, like Judaism things, like adding Judaism into programs or Zionism into programs. But even then, like when it's really blatantly obvious, it's sort of played for a laugh to an extent that the older campers will get and will think is funny. It's like, let me see if I can think of an example. Oh, here's a great example. There's a sporting event at the summer camp, and that they do once every summer. And the whole camp gets divided into 3 teams, and they compete. And what I did is I was in charge of organizing it. It was my job as a head staff. And one thing that you do is you do an intro to sort of like tell everyone that it's starting. And it's a secret when it's starting, so no one knows other than the other head staff. And what I did is I made up, for the intro, I walked into the center of like the camp meeting that we do every night and just went, okay, everyone, tomorrow is Escape to Israel, and everyone sighs loudly, like audibly, because like, oh no. And I intentionally made it sort of this joke program, and I just made it as much of the kind of program that we need to do because it's a Zionist Jewish camp, but is very clearly like, and it'll probably be fun, but it's like, it'll be full of this sort of ham-fisted stuff. We don't force people. I think the biggest difference is we don't force people to accept what we're telling them. We just want the campers to think about it. We want to educate them.
That's actually kind of nice because there's other camps out there that are, like I said, pushing things down people's throats, either Christianity or most of the time it's only Christianity that I've heard of. But up at your camp, do you guys bring in people who are not practicing Jews? Is
not
there
as
like
campers,
but definitely as staff members?
As staff, not a ton. It does happen. Usually not as like staff that are in charge of running the camp. A great example is like there are some programs, like we've had a rock wall program before where once a day people will come and like, our camp was a rock wall, but they would get a professional from outside camp who wasn't Jewish to come manage that because they don't have any, because all the staff are like 22 or under.
Right.
But they don't have anyone who's like professionally trained to deal with that, right? To properly and safely run a rock wall.
And that's probably extra money anyway if you are also working on the rock wall, so easier to just hire someone in.
Yeah, it's not extra money. As someone who was the head of archery at our camp for a number of years, you don't get paid any more for having a skill set that no one else has.
You get a sweet kiss and a pat on the back.
You get put on that period all the time, though, which was brutal my first year in 45-degree weather, with no shade, out on the archery field 4 hours a day.
Jesus.
You didn't even have like a cover or like.
Nope.
We
We got a cover in my second year, but my second year, 1, wasn't as sunny, and 2, was way windier, so it blew away and got broken almost immediately. And that's happened every time we've gotten a cover for the archery field.
No.
Oh, God.
But yeah, like I said, the camp is Zionist, so we do have like ideals and certain values that we try to like teach the kids, but
right.
Because it's supporting Israel. The camp supports Israel, but we don't be like, Israel is this shining beacon of good. We go, this is what's going on in Israel. Not all of it's good. Let's talk about it.
It's an actual
Especially with
nuanced understanding.
Yeah. Because you have to understand that nothing's perfect. Christianity has its problems. It also has its virtues. There's definitely good things about Christianity too. Historically, maybe not as many, but in practice, in practice, Christianity has values that it teaches that are good. A lot of religions do. It also has values that it teaches, or there are things that people have done in the name of those values that maybe aren't as good. And it's worth talking about that. It's not. I don't think it's fair to say all religion is bad or all religion is good and you should believe in God. I think that it's just important to talk about things and to understand where everyone's coming from and why people think certain things.
That's a good perspective to have. That's kind of how I have perceived things in the past couple of years, that all religions have their unique and good morals or values, but it's what you do with those values and morals that affect what kind of people look at certain parts of the religion.
Yeah. And I think that it gets a bad rap because a lot of people do not good things in the name of those values and morals.
Exactly.
I think that is a lot of religions, a lot of belief systems, a lot of morals. People will try to push on others and do terrible things in order to enact. And ultimately, that is what I think gets like Christianity its bad name, what gets atheism its bad name, what gets like capitalism and communism both their bad name.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because people take things too far beyond their to their extremes. And they don't stop to understand what the other side is.
They don't take a second to understand why people believe this. They just I don't, and therefore it is wrong.
People don't stop to think, and that's a huge problem today, I think, more than maybe not more than ever, but more than in the past, certainly, that people don't care why the other side thinks what they do. They just care that they disagree with them, and they think that they're bad people because of it. Yeah. Which is honestly why I think this podcast is so cool, and why I'm really honored that you guys brought me on. Because this podcast is really about talking to people from what I've gathered, at least, talking to people from different walks of life and learning about who they are and, as you put it, why they are. Why they think certain things.
Well, you put it at the beginning of this episode.
Well, fair enough.
We're the interviewees this episode.
I think that's probably the most something that's lacking a lot in society today, especially on the internet, and is important and needs to not be lacking.
Yeah, I think the internet is definitely our culprit for why we are lacking that empathy and that want to understand one another.
Because the internet pushes us away from it a lot of the time. It can push us towards it, but people don't use it that way, and people have discovered that it's less profitable to use it that way. In cases, like I would argue that Tumblr, for example, whatever you think about Tumblr, is generally, I find that more people understand each other on Tumblr than on Twitter. And Twitter makes, well, maybe not right now, but for a long time, Twitter makes way more money than Tumblr does, I'm sure.
Twitter, in theory, makes more money than Tumblr does. But Tumblr also basically doesn't. Tumblr doesn't profit.
Yeah, exactly. but Tumblr's a platform that doesn't push people into echo chambers where they won't understand other people. Obviously, it can, because there's shenanigans. I'm not going to talk into the mechanics of Tumblr, but not that I'm on Tumblr or Twitter really, but I think that it lends itself to that a lot less.
Do you think that all in all we are better for having the internet, or do you think it has caused so much division like that it is ultimately a either neutral gain or a net negative?
I think that I'm going to take a step back from the internet and talk about technology as a whole for a moment. I think that technology as a whole is net positive. I think that more people, though because of the internet and because of communication technology, we now know about more of the people that aren't living as well as we are, or that are living better than us. I think that throughout all of history, there has always been people who have been living worse or better than other people. I think that more people are living higher up in their quality of life than they would have been without without a lot of modern inventions. So I think that people are deceived by the fact that we can see so much more of the bad going on in the world into blaming technology for that bad. I think the bad was going on without technology, and I think that more people have benefited than lost. That said, our global system is just kind of a mess. I was an international studies major. We have, because of our communication technology is as advanced as it is, we have created a system as humans that is more advanced and complicated than any one person can understand. And as such is larger and harder to chain and harder to make an impact on than is realistic. It's like, think about trying to take on the global system of like economics and trade that capitalism is that capitalism has created to an extent. And I'm not going to say capitalism bad, because like I said, that's not a very nuanced approach to the topic. And I think it's just dumb to dismiss something as bad. But capitalism especially has, in a lot of places, been taken too far, I think, right now. Where where profit comes before anything else, before the well-being of people. And because at the end of the day, I feel like the point of capitalism is to make everyone profit, to increase everyone's well-being. But because of the global system we have, there are so many entities that aren't really beholden to governments who try to force them to care about people. That we sort of... Sorry, this is a little hard for me to get across.
It's a complicated topic, and condensing it down to a couple of sentences is kind of hard.
It's difficult because we can't take on these giant corporations or or just the system. It's hard to change the system to make it better. And that's what I think the problem with technology is. On the flip side of that, I think that the only way to gain any traction to be able to change the system is using the technology that allowed it to be created, which is our communication technology. Because you need enough people with enough important people with enough power to actually make the changes. Because not even one important person with that kind of power doesn't have enough to make the changes that are needed. So it's really about... The internet has both good and bad. I don't think I can conclusively say that it's neutral. I don't think I can conclusively say that it's good nor bad. I think that you'd have to do a study on the internet and all of its effects throughout its history, which is just impossible.
Which is, like we were talking about, impossibly large.
Yeah, it's just... I think that there's good and bad. And that kind of applies with almost anything. And the internet is it's a tool, like everything. And this is definitely not my opinion. This is what I think, but it's definitely not an opinion I created. But it's like any technology, it's a tool, and how it's used affects what influence it has. People can use it to spread hate and to cause riots and protests. And on the flip side of that, sometimes those protests can be against corrupt governments that are you know what I mean?
Those protests can do great things, and sometimes they can just cause further suffering.
Exactly. So it's there's no real way to be like the internet is good, the internet is bad. It's more nuanced than that.
The internet and moreover communication technology as a whole is an unbelievably complicated system that has changed our society into a way that it is no longer recognizable.
Mm-hmm. And an incredibly powerful system. But only if it's used properly can it be used for anything.
Well, I think that's where we're gonna call it today. There's some
fair enough.
Very good takes right at the end there.
It was a very good take.
I
love talking to you, Joey.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. It was really fun.
Every time we hang out, I learn something new about you. Even though most of the time we hang out, we play bullshit game like Halo and Among Us. But
this time it was that I'm Jewish.
Not the only thing.
I know.
The only takeaway.
Should I give everyone reference quickly before we wrap up for that?
For you being Jewish?
No. So at the beginning of the podcast, Shannon was reading the little intro that I wrote for myself and went, "Hold on, you're Jewish?"
It was like big shocker moment. And now
you've known each other for like 3 years now?
Yeah, I've known Shannon for ages.
God damn it.
Sorry to put a spotlight over that. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
I had a ton of fun, and I was really glad to talk with you guys.
Yeah, it was really good talking with you.
We've got the lovely housekeeping stuff. Thank you to Nadia Diaz for our podcast cover art. Her Instagram will be linked in the description. But it is at Arthead Creations. No spaces, no capitals. And it's going to be in the description, like I said. And then thank you to Jensen Kral, who made our intro and outro song for the podcast. I am still waiting on a link from him about the musical writing workshop. But he has his song Knocking on Doors for his musical Tea Time still out and about. Go check it out. The other thing is, send us some questions. We've got our email waiting for the number 4 seconds at gmail.com. Send us some questions and we can ask people like Joey random things.
Yeah, we would love to hear your questions.
I gave everyone a thumbs up when you said like Joey, but no one can see that.
Yeah, it's an audio medium, man. Great try, though.
Maybe we'll go visual. I don't know.
Maybe.
Regardless, no one will ever see the thumbs up I gave them.
That thumbs up is gone.
Thank you again, Joey, for hanging out and letting us get to know you. But we'll see everybody next time. Goodbye.
Bye. See you next time.